Hi, and welcome back to the Bookish Key. I'm Elly, and this is a space where we talk about books as experiences, not just what we read, but how reading fits into our lives. Today, I want to talk about something that feels very familiar to a lot of readers, but that we don't always name out loud: the emotional weight of the TBR. Not the fun and dreamy side of it, but the quiet pressure, the guilt, the expectations we sometimes place on ourselves through the book we haven't read yet. Because at its core, the TBR is just a list. But emotionally, it's, well, rarely just a list. My TBR, for example, holds excitement, future version of myself who will one day sit down with these stories. But it also holds intentions, plans, curiosity, and sometimes obligation. There are books on my TBR that I added because I truly wanted them, and others that represent who I thought I should be as a reader at a certain moment in time. And that's where the weight starts to appear. Sometimes looking at my TBR doesn't make me feel inspired, but on the other side, it makes me feel behind. Behind on trends, behind on conversation, behind of a version of myself who reads enough or reads the right things. There is this unspoken idea that a TBR is something to conquer, that the goal is to make it smaller, more manageable, more productive, but reading isn't a task to complete. Not always, at least. And a TBR isn't a promise we owe to anyone, not even ourselves. One thing I started noticing in my reading journey is that every book on my TBR was added for a reason at a specific moment. Now, some of those reasons still exist, others don't. And, well, that's okay. I learned that letting go of a book, removing it from the TBR, or admitting this isn't for me anymore, isn't a failure. It's actually a form of honesty. Because our lives change, our attention changes, our needs change, and our reading should be allowed to change with us. So, lately I've been trying to think of my TBR less as a list of obligations and more as a library of possibilities. Not everything needs to be read, not everything needs to be read now. And some books are allowed to wait, quietly and patiently, until the right version of me comes along. So the TBR doesn't define my worth as a reader. It just shows that I'm curious. Here's are my 2 cents. If your TBR feels heavy right now, I hope you know you're not alone in that feeling. You are allowed to read slowly. You are allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to pick the book that feels right today, even if it wasn't the plan. Thank you for spending this little moment with me and for opening another small key into our reading life. Until next time, take care and read gently. Elly.